fast for them. So with that, let's talk about a couple of them. Denial. And denial is a great one because it applies in every single area of life. Basically, not wanting to accept new realities and not wanting to accept information that refutes your prior closely held beliefs. And one of the reasons denial is such a necessary thing is that it prevents it helps resolve cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is a severe stress that you feel when the truth and your beliefs don't line up. And the way you can just mitigate that is to just not believe it. Actually, I want to go back one more because that was incentive cause bias. This is a particularly pernicious one. Basically, we all make decisions that will favor what's in our best interest, even when we don't think we are doing so. This is true for hedge fund managers, it's true for surgeons, and it's true for people in all areas of life, including academics and teachers. Commitment consistency bias is so powerful that we can use it in medicine. Basically, the more we will externally say something, whether I verbally say it to you here on stage, or if you just write it on a piece of paper, you will start to believe it and you will comply. And the reason that is such a powerful thing, both good and bad, is because if people say things they don't necessarily believe, they will start to believe them to resolve the cognitive dissonance that occurs by not being consistent. This is a very, very primal brain cognitive bias. And the reason this is so important is when people go to rallies where they debate things in public, like on a floor, the founding fathers got up and debated things in public and took strong positions. The stronger we argue for things, the less able we are to take new data in the future that will refute the belief that we strongly argued. Therefore, we're directly impairing our ability to think well. But it's also a great thing, because if somebody's unhappy, they can pretend that they are happy, and it will make them happier. It's been proven in 1 million studies, things as simple as if someone is unhappy and they force themselves to smile, and even look at themselves in the mirror and smile, not even out in public, it will, over time, make them happier. So it's a great thing to know about, because although it has deleterious effects, it also can be quite useful. And in terms of grabbing some of the great behavior patterns Whitney talked about and other things that we aspire to, we can say we're going to do them, we can write them down, and we can improve the chance that we will be compliant with that wished-for behavior. Pattern recognition bias, which I just flipped over, is we incessantly want to recognize patterns. They may be there, they may not be there, but we always are looking for them and using them to try to make sense of the world and predict. And that can sometimes be helpful and sometimes be very dangerous. Social proof is just exactly what it sounds like, which is just, we look around and see what other people are doing, and we're more likely to do that or think it's a good idea. And it's like that old joke, which has a lot of truth to it, of the oil man who dies and he goes up to heaven and he's at the pearly gates, and St. Peter says, well, I'm sorry, you should be allowed into heaven, but we've already got all the oil men here that we can take. We've reached our quota. And the guy said, well, okay, but do you mind if I just say a word to the guys who are inside? He was like, no, go right ahead. And he goes inside and he says, oil discovered in hell. All of a sudden, all these oil men come rushing out of the gate to go down to hell. So St. Peter looks at him and goes, well, we have plenty of room, come on in. And he looks at him and he goes, I think there might be something to that rumor. I'm going with these guys. And lastly, I'll just talk about contrast bias, which is so interesting because it occurs both physiologically and neurologically. So we judge everything on a relative scale. Everything we think and everything that we feel is relative to what's near it. So it's the contrast bias. Physiologically, this experiment gets run when your teacher, and maybe some of you have been in class when this has happened, you can take a student down to the front of class, have a very cold bucket of water and a hot bucket of water, and in the middle, just a room temperature bucket of water, and have the student put one hand in each, the cold and the hot, wait a few minutes, take both hands and plunge them together into the room temperature. And that student will feel exactly opposite feelings in his hands, his or her hands. The hand coming from the cold bucket will feel incredibly hot and painful, and the one coming from the hot bucket will feel freezing at the exact same time. So that also occurs with us as we judge things in terms of severity. After loss, whether it's financial or personal, what happens is it seems extreme because it occurs in reaction to the previous experience, which was much more placid. So the volatility we're experiencing today, which truly is extreme on a quantitative basis, feels even more so because it came after a period of extremely low volatility. And as all of our expectations get reset, that painful process is what we're going through right now. Scarcity and envy bias, just quickly, we value things that we perceive to be in short supply. And for obvious Darwinian reasons, like food, shelter, clothing, mates, this is the way our brains are wired. Right now, cash seems to be in short supply, and that's why it's the favorite asset class, safety and things of that nature. In other markets, stocks going up are perceived to be scarce and something that's getting away from you and you want it. And this also has applicability to personal life. Envy, jealousy bias. Buffett has said that it's not greed that makes Wall Street go, it's envy. We can take a room, in a corporation, you can take a room of employees who are all perfectly happy and satisfied, as they've self-reported in questionnaires. Tell everyone in the room what the other people make, and you'll have a room full of miserable people. So, with that, I'm going to talk briefly about American Express. And so American Express, as you all know, is the card. And can I just see a show of hands? Who has an American Express card in this audience? Great. And now I'd like to see a show of hands. Is anybody thinking of canceling that card? Almost nobody. In fact, I don't see anyone. And I've asked this question to audiences before and gotten the same response. So as you know, American Express is a very well